Hi, I'm Scott Wolf, and I want to take you back in time to the 1960s to learn about Disneyland's tour guides. To give you a great look back at the wonderful history of Disney's tour guides, I want to share a couple treasures with you. These are the tour guide annuals from 1965 and 1966. These very rare publications were only given to the tour guides at their annual banquet. And they were given to me by a wonderful friend who was a tour guide at that time. Her name is Carole Tulley. Here's a picture of Carole and me. Carole played an important role in Disneyland history that many of you probably don't know about. She was the 1964 Miss Disneyland. This is Carole during her reign. Carole was the second Miss Disneyland. The first was in 1962. As Miss Disneyland, Carole's travels took her to the 1964 New York World's Fair, where Disney had several attractions, and to London, Paris, Rome, Stockholm, Copenhagen, and even Lapland. Following Carole's reign, the next year, for Disneyland's 10th anniversary in 1965, Jack Lindquist created a full-blown ambassador program, choosing a Miss Disneyland who would reign for the entire year. Although the new ambassador's duties were much more involved and elaborate, the first Disneyland ambassadors were also referred to as Miss Disneyland. Carole gave me these treasures, which offer a very rare glimpse at what it was like to be a tour guide in the 1960s. So let's delve into them. In this first one, here's a picture of Carla de Villas. Carla has the distinction of being the first person to give an official tour at Disneyland. Next to her is Tommy Walker, who is both the head of entertainment and also the founder of the tour guide program. Carla tells her story, and I want to share some of her story with you. But there's a lot of fun photos in here, so I'm going to show you some of those while I do that. Now, Carla was already a Disneyland cast member selling souvenirs when she was asked if she'd like to be part of an experimental program of tour guides giving guided tours. She wrote, "We had meetings and meetings and meetings. We had 8 weeks of training sessions. We learned about the park from stem to stern." Interestingly, the first group of 5 tour guides included 2 men, Bill Skiles and Pete Henderson, who were comedians performing at Carnation Plaza Gardens at that time. By 1965, there were only female tour guides, so Carla wrote, "Can you imagine Disneyland with only 5 guides? And boys, too." Carla also talked about the first guided tour, which was in 1958. She wrote, "It was strictly complimentary. I was very nervous. We approached 2 families who consented to give it a whirl. I was of course anxious to show off my vast knowledge of the Magic Kingdom, so I filled those poor folks full of facts and figures. I believe the tour took a little more than 3.5 hours. We didn't have the monorail or submarine in those days. But we did take the following rides: train, omnibus, jungle, Mark Twain, Alice in Wonderland, or other ride in Fantasyland, it was left up to us, and the moon ride." Now this page shows a couple of the early tour guide costumes. The first tour guide costume consisted of a red Pendleton jacket and blue skirts, and during the winter they changed to these plaid jumpers. And this is the first tour guide summer costume, complete with frilly sun hat and green blouse. Wow, what an outfit. Down at the bottom here is Carole, who gave me this book. In 1959, Cicely Rigdon joined the tour guide program, as she not only gave tours, but she was responsible for helping develop the program. She wrote this poem, which is really cute, but it definitely shows the times. It's called Golden Rules, and these are the actual tour guide appearance guidelines. "Because we want the best for you, pink lipstick, girls, is just taboo. And if you wish to look your best, leave all the hardware off your vest. The hat looks best straight on the head. Clean and repaired shoes on the feet you tread. No nail polish, Disneyland says to us, and eye makeup, no, so please don't fuss." And then it ends with, "For tour guides, never shirk their duty. After all, they have natural beauty." Now over here is a look at things coming to Disneyland in the near future. At the top is a new Tomorrowland with a rendering of what would ultimately lead to Space Mountain in 1977. New Orleans Square was coming in 1966. Both It's a Small World and Mr. Lincoln debuted at the New York World's Fair, and a copy of Mr. Lincoln opened in 1965, and Small World was moved to Disneyland in 1966. There's the Haunted Mansion, which opened in 1969. And lastly, the Red Wagon Inn was updated to become the Plaza Inn restaurant, which opened the year of this book in 1965. This page talks about Mr. Leinberger, the tour guide glee club director, and they also had their own softball team, appropriately named the Red Sox, which were part of their costume. Oh, the song in the back is the tour guide song. We are the guides of Disneyland, always there with a helping hand. Questions, we answer questions about the kingdom in which you stand. Anyway, we need more songs like this in the world. The world would be a better place if we had more sing-alongs. Now this is the 1966 Tour Guide Annual. Take a look at the cute illustration at the bottom of the tour guide and her group. Isn't that great? This page shows the administrators with Jack Lindquist, the director of marketing, at the top. He was such a nice friend, and he was there from 1955. He shared so many stories with me. By 1966, Cicely became the tour guide supervisor. Here's Bob Wormhout, who was the manager of guest relations, overseeing the tour guides. And on this page is a photo of the hostesses that handled the VIP tours. Third from the left is my friend Marcia Miner, who became the 1967 Disneyland Ambassador. At the very left is Charlene Thompson. And there's Charlene behind Walt. Charlene has fond memories of Walt, and she told me he was always so friendly. In Cicely's remembrances, she shares some of her memories. In that photo at the bottom, that's Cicely in the middle. She wrote, "I remember a little Japanese girl asking for a banjo all through the tour. I thought it was a musical instrument, and too late I found out it means restroom." And here, I remember a kindly minister whom I had had on a tour calling from San Francisco to arrange for me to meet an eligible bachelor in his congregation. And Cicely added this moral: tell everyone you're married. Now this section here again shows the fun the tour guides had by telling some true stories. This one reads, "Would you believe chivalry is not dead? Some children are believers and some are non-believers. To Sherry's dismay, she found that one little boy on her tour was eager to believe every word. At the Jungle Cruise, Sherry informed the small child that the area was surrounded by man-eating plants. Knowing chivalry was not dead, the small boy grabbed Sherry's crop, jumped to the fence, and began to kill the jungle foliage." Now this next one must have been psychic. Remember, this was 1966, and it reads, "While directing her tour by the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, Dawn overheard a guest inform his son that that was where Tarzan and Jane lived." Now, this was years before the Disney movie version of Tarzan, and 33 years after this, the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse became Tarzan's treehouse. That man was psychic. Here's one where a lady approached Sandy and asked, "How do I get to the Mount Baldy ride?" Sandy straightened her out and then suggested that this guest should not miss the tiki room. The innocent guest replied, "No, thank you. We have one of those on our bus." She must have thought Sandy had said the Tinkle Room. Tour guide Linda wanted to avoid confusion between the Tiki Room show and the Tahitian Terrace, and she wanted to point out clearly that the latter was a restaurant. She stood on a bench and cleared her throat, and in the loudest voice of the day, she said, "The Tahitian Terrace is a restroom." So you all understand, right? The Tiki Room is not a tinkle room. The Tahitian Terrace is not a restroom. And if perchance you do need a restroom, just shout banjo, banjo. Oh, I'm in Love by Cicely Rigdon. In this one, Cicely writes, "Dear Lord and Father way up in heaven, please hear my prayer, though I'm only 7. Today was the finest I've spent in my life. I found the girl I want for my wife." And then skipping down here, it reads, "Her red vest was so bright, and she wore a big D. Dear Lord, do you think she'll remember me?" And it ends, "So hear this prayer of a boy of 7, and please hurry up and make me 11, so I can return to that magic land, and if Sue is still there, I'll hold her hand." This page just shows some of those rare moments when the tour guides got to be alone. Those tour guides have a little alone time in front of the entrance to Tomorrowland. This guide gets a break during a performance of the Golden Horseshoe Revue in Frontierland. And there's a tour guide entering a cast member area aboard the Mark Twain riverboat. These tour guides are taking a break in the tour guide lounge behind City Hall. I like that one of the tour guides is still smiling while she pretends to sleep. My friend Connie told me they also had small lockers in the lounge and a mirror to make sure their hats were straight. And speaking of Connie, there she is. Connie Swanson, the 1966 Disneyland Ambassador. She's standing in front of It's a Small World, which was still under construction. You know, Knowing people like Connie and Carole who gave me these books and having them as friends and knowing their personalities gives me great insight into the types of people that Disneyland hired during Walt's days and how they helped pave the way for Disneyland to endure for so many decades to follow. I really hope you enjoyed learning about the tour guides of the 1960s, and I thank you for traveling back in time with me.